Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to WeLynx webinar on Vietnam wind energy and updates and the future. This is Lynic Wang, partner of WeLynx, and your MC today. Vietnam is the hardest market for wind energy development in Southeast Asia, with 500 megawatt installed capacity, and the revised master plan envisaged 2 gigawatts will be installed by 2025 and 6 gigawatts by 2030. In June this year, the Prime Minister approved an additional 7 gigawatts of new wind projects to be added to Vietnam's master plan for the power sector. However, due to pandemic and uncertainty of the FIT scheme, whether this ambitious plan will be materialized. We are very glad to have 3 distinguished speakers here today, and will bring you the insight and the latest updates of Vietnam wind market. The total duration for today's webinar will be 1 hour, and the 3 speakers with each 10 minutes presentation, and after which we will have a 15 minutes Q&A sessions. I think we're about time to get started, and I warmly welcome our first speaker, Ms. Lynic Qiao, Asia Director of GWEC. Hi, Lynic, are you ready? And now you have the floor.
Thank you, Lynic. Yeah, can you let me share my screen? Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So what I'm going to talk about is global wind market update, and also to zoom on to Vietnam wind market. First, this is the content page about GWEC, who we are. Global Wind Energy Council is the wind energy trade association for the global wind industry. So we represent the wind industry supply chain and also the wind energy associations at different national and regional level. And our main task is to represent the wind industry to do different policy activities or policy advocacies done through our policy task forces. There are 6 of them active now. And if you are very much interested in Asia, there are 2 task forces, or actually 3, that should capture your attention. That's Global Offshore Task Force, Southeast Asia Task Force, and also Offshore Wind Task Force in Japan. Apart from our different policy advocacy work, we also do market intelligence. Most of the statistics that you will see later in this presentation is done by our market intelligence department. And we also do different international collaborations with international organizations such as IRENA, IEA, the World Bank Group, IFC. And through this, we do a number of capacity building projects with different national governments. And apart from this, we also help the industry to really establish the platform for networking, for business development through our different seminars, summit, and conferences. Next is 2 slides about our members. As said, the right-hand side is our association members. On the left-hand side are our corporate members, which this is only a fraction of them captured here. And just to mention a little bit about the Southeast Asia Task Force, because this is related to the topic that we're talking today. Southeast Task Force, as mentioned, is our main policy vehicle for doing policy advocacy in Southeast Asia region. And the idea is really to use the task force and to promote, to unlock the potential in Southeast Asia as a region, the potential for energy transition. And currently, the task force is focusing on 4 priority markets, which is Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, and Indonesia. And these are the most active members that are with us in the task force. And this is not all of them. This is also another capture of it. And it's chaired by Mark Hutchinson, who had been leading Wood Mackenzie's advisory work for many years. And this is also related very much to the topic that we're talking today, what we have done in the Southeast Asia Task Force. What we have been doing through the task force, as I said, is very much like policy advocacy or policy lobbies. One of the key issues that is very much deciding the future of the wind energy in Vietnam is the future of the FIT, whether it can get extended as soon as possible, or what will happen after 2021, and when will it be like an auction in the future. So GWEC has been really at the forefront of advocating for the industry on the extension of FIT. This is the, on the right-hand side, you can see that we have conducted a series of meetings directly with the MOIT to convey the message on behalf of the industry about the FIT extension. And this has been done since last year. And the activities has been ramped up throughout this year, where we also have been engaged into the FIT2 calculation. And as most of you know, the whole process is still not finalized yet, but we are very much hopeful that by end of the year, we'll see FIT2 coming out. Apart from onshore policy, we also do lots of advocacy on the offshore wind, where we organized the first offshore wind roundtable 2 years ago, and also did a number of like government capacity building with the MOIT, EVN, and different government stakeholders. And there is also a number of policy documents that is backing our different activities up. Apart from those direct kind of policy activities, we also do a coalition building, which means we try to gather all the people that are really have concern of the wind or renewable industry in Vietnam, and gather everybody together to really advocate for the renewable, that including the Binh Thuan Wind Energy Association, VBF, Euro Chamber and US Chamber, VCEA, and also various embassies and different agencies. So now I'm going to bring us to the global and regional outlook. So by end of 2019, the global wind energy installation has reached 651 gigawatt. And this is a compound average growth rate of 12% over the past 5 years. And along this process, we also see the share of offshore wind increasing dramatically. It's now representing 5% of the global installation, which translates into 29.1 gigawatt. And by far, the offshore industry, if you look at the cumulative market, it's still very much dominated by the European players or the European markets, which accounts for about 75% of the market share. But we increasingly see the Asian players, especially the East Asia players, and also China, the biggest Asian market, taking up increasingly important role in the offshore market. This is further to look into the offshore market. So by end of last year, the offshore market reached the new installation. In terms of the new installation for last year, offshore market reached 6.1 gigawatt, which is about 10% of last year's new installation. And this, if you look at the installation in the past 13 years, the development or the exponential growth of the offshore wind market is really significant. The share of the offshore in the annual installation grew from merely 1% to almost 10%. And in the past 5 years, the average growth rate is also reaching like 24%, which is quite significant for the world. This is our market forecast, where we also look into the future, the next 5 years, what will happen, and to give a forecast on a 5-year basis. This one shows the pre-COVID, where the trend is actually the same. But if you look at our post-COVID, the main thing is that a number of the installation were delayed in 2020 because of COVID, but these delayed capacities were added back in 2021. So overall, I think the trend of the development is still very much maintained. And that means that the market in the next five years will have a average growth rate of 4%, and that represent about 355 gigawatt of installation over the 5 years, translating into about 71 gigawatt of new installation each year. Yeah, so, and this is the forecast into the offshore market, where we can see that by the next decade, more than 205 gigawatt of new offshore will be added. And this is backed by a number of more active Asian markets in taking place and becoming much more active. And by the second half or towards the end of the next decade, the Asia and US new installation will surpass that of Europe. This is further to look into Asia. We can see that it has been dominating by the Chinese market and will continue to be so. But in the second half of the decade, there will be much more diversities in the Asian market, especially in the East Asia, such as Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, and also in the future, Vietnam. And floating offshore is also going to take increasingly important role in the future. Now moving to Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia, like I've mentioned before, FIT is the main driving force for both onshore and offshore industry. And now the FIT for onshore is 8.5 US cents per kilowatt hour, and for onshore is 9.5. And there's a deadline of November 2021. And given that wind project usually has a long project development timeline, so we, as the industry voice, we really have been advocating to the government that the FIT has to be like extended ASAP, so that the industry really can get the signal and the investment can continue, rather than leaving like a big dip into the future. And through our various dialogue with the government, we also understand that in the PDP 7, in the PDP 8, which is now being drafted, there's a likelihood of a significant increase of the wind target in the 2025 to 2030 period, to about between 6 to 11 gigawatt, which is very much a huge step forward from the original target of 2 gigawatt and 6 gigawatt in the PDP 7. And offshore wind MOID is preparing some sort of like a roadmap into the PDP 8. We hope it will be soon released, with the first draft. In Thailand, Thailand is also having a power development plan, which was under revision since mid of last year and was supposed to be finalized by March of this year, but COVID hit everybody and also kind of like hijacked the whole process. So now we are still waiting for a finalization of the PDP revision, where in the current draft, we see a likelihood of a wind target to be put into the PDP, which is something quite significant for the Thai industry. Although the target is not big, only 90 megawatts per year, but the meaning of it is significant because it will open up the market again, which has been quite very much under development until like 2 years ago. So let's wait and see and hope this PDP revision will come out soon. And Philippines is the same. There are lots of policy challenges right now, and also a very low RPS. And offshore, in terms of offshore, there's no regulation, no regulatory framework. It's still early days, and we are also talking to the Filipino government and educating them and trying to bring the offshore into their future planning. Indonesia is another key market, which has lots of potentials for renewable, for wind development into the future. But again, it's another market which lack of like a framework kind of like renewable energy supporting policy. But I think there are lots of discussions and lots of interest from the government on promoting renewables. So it's definitely a market worth watching. The next one shows our kind of like future forecast for these different markets. For Vietnam, we see by end of 2024 about 3.5 gigawatts to be installed. For the market. spot on the market, as just mentioned by Lynic. That's the additional 7 GW was approved for the PDP 7. And there was very recently another 6.4 GW proposed by the government to be like integrated into the PDP 7. But I think that one were not approved by the PM as far as like last week. And I think that if you look at the number, it's really big, but a lot of things really depending on the FIT. And it doesn't really mean that all the products that are approved or like included in the PDP will all be developed. Actually, the majority of them will actually not be able to really develop by the deadline. And another thing to highlight is the PDP 8, which is now being drafted and is supposed to be finalized by October 2020. And the first draft, and then we'll undergo different hearings, different processes until it's finalized by beginning of next year, Q1, Q2 of next year. Yeah, there are lots of other discussions about the offshore wind roadmap being integrated into that. The two organizations that has been advocating this very actively are the Danish Energy Agency and the World Bank Group, and they're proposing a target of between 5 to 10 GW by 2030. And World Bank also have an even more higher and ambitious scenario, which is indicated on this slide. So they have in their roadmap, there are like a low scenario and a high scenario, and envisage like between 7 to 17 GW of fixed foundation project by 2035, and also intertidal projects and floating projects. And World Bank also did through the EastMap estimation of the exploitation potentials for the offshore, which is also captured here. In total, it's about 470 GW of offshore that is possible for Vietnam to develop, including both floating and fixed foundation ones. So what is needed really? I mean, from the beginning, I started with our policy work. I think the key for the Vietnamese market to develop is really the policy framework. And it's the long-term, it will decide the long-term investment confidence, and also give the investors the right signal to really invest into that. So this is a list of things that we think are really, really crucial. But back to the instance, it's the right policy and the right policy framework for both onshore and offshore to go forward. So that's it for me on all the things about the Vietnamese market. I'll hand it back to Lynic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee-Min. Very interesting sharing about the overview picture about the world wind market and within Southeast Asia focus. And we also saw great potentials that's in Vietnam. And as I understand that you might leave earlier, and so I would like to have a few questions that in advance to you. And what did you see about the FIT 2020 and beyond? Do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, as I said, what we found from the government is that the MOIT is indeed also trying to push for the FIT extension ASAP. And there is already a calculation of the FIT2, which is lower than the current level. But this is like being proposed to the PM, Prime Minister, and still like in the process of being approved by the Prime Minister. And there are different rounds of like working on the levels. Yeah, that's where we are. And we believe this FIT will give us an extension until 2022, and start from 2023, there will be auction for the onshore, intertidal.
Right.
Include real offshore, yeah.
Yeah, so besides the FIT, do you see other key challenges to develop wind energy in Vietnam?
I think now the grid is definitely a challenge, especially after the surge of the solar power already giving the EVN a lot of headache. managing the variable renewables. And I think this is not new. I mean, every country I've seen entering the phase of like developing offshore wind or developing wind or renewables will experience that. Once it hits certain penetration rate, then the grid operators will be the one that, yeah, the most resistant ones in the system to welcome us. But it's a process, and this is also like a lot of dialogue, a lot of education, a lot of like positive thinking and consensus building is needed for this area.
Thank you very much, Lynic. Thank you again for your excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. And let's welcome our next speaker. My friend, Ms. Tuan Phung Anh from VCI Legal. And I'm sure that Tuan, you have a lot of experience on the PPA and applicability sectors for the financing projects in renewable energy in Vietnam. Thank you very much for coming here, Tuan. Now you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. Just good afternoon, everyone. Just give me 1 second. I'm trying to share the slide that I'm going to talk about. And by the way, you know, since I've been talking in 2 different events in the last 2 weeks, so I'm wondering if any of you had been there. Then if any of you already, go through this, and with me in the last 2 days, the last 2 weeks, then please bear with me, okay? And Supa, was you there when I did the presentation? Obviously, to this time I'm trying to not to repeat myself, but just in case, and then my apology, okay? All right. Hello, can you hear me? Everything good? All right.
Good.
All right. Since we only have, this, as a matter of fact, I have a bit of the, number of slides here. Then, so the bad news is that I have a few number of slides in this presentation because it was intended to be an update on recent development of wind energy in Vietnam and renewable energy in Vietnam, as well, and with a focus onto the bankability of the PPA and relevant risks in PPA template in Vietnam. Okay, the good news is obviously I'll cut majority of that. Okay, I'll be trying to focus onto the PPA and bankability of the format of the legal framework in Vietnam. So for those of you who are interested in the subject matter, I'll try to cover it very briefly. And for you who interested in other matters, then you can either ask a question if we have enough time here, or email or reach me through the social network, either WhatsApp or LinkedIn or Twitter, or the other platform, the regular platform. I'm reachable through all of that. Okay. So with that being said, this is a presentation, just a few slides about, just a few words about VCI Legal. Being we basically been around for more than 25 years. Our lawyer, our partner, had been. We put together all of the year of experiences, and then we have around 70 to 80 years of experience here practicing on advisory work, as well as representative work for client in Vietnam. So we do a number of thing for a number of clients, but our client are essentially corporate client company of different size and shape, and in with all kind of nationality, ASEAN, Koreans, American, European, etc., etc. and we have been advising company in own type of industry, as you can see, financial service, real estate, trade, tax, labor, etc. and etc. So we do represent company in infrastructures and construction and energy, and we're lucky enough to have been recognized by the market in the last 10 years. So therefore, you see the number of world we managed to get ourselves into. So with that being said, I'm trying not to take much of the time talking about ourselves. Instead, I'm trying to go to the very quick legal framework of for wind energy. With obviously, we are having a focus today. So having said that, last year and this year we don't have a whole lot of new regulation onto the wind energy front. Solar, it's just more detailed guidance that you can see up here, circular from the MOIT, Ministry of Trade and Industry, as well as the two circular on solar and wind. So feed-in tariff, as you probably heard already from the other presenter, it's going to come with a turn by the end of this year, and next year there would be the end of the feed-in tariff regime, while there's many for wind and solar respectively. But then there are proposals to extend it. Okay. So the details about the feed-in tariff in Vietnam, probably I will not get into given the interest of time. And current, I would spend a bit of more time onto the current obstacle for solar and wind for renewable energy in Vietnam with the two key form is solar and wind. And as you can see, majority of the issues that are relevant to the grid overload congestion because of the recent boom of the solar power farm in the center of Vietnam, being Ninh Thuận, and a few of them in Mekong Delta also. And a significant product cut due to the congestion of last year. So we're talking about 30, 35 or to 40%, depending on the time. And however, with the recent pilot project for private investment into transmission line, that the matter of overloaded congestion had been dealt with gradually, and it is believed that for between now and middle of next year, that should be dealt away with for the center of Vietnam. Given the fact that just 2 weeks ago, the first private transmission line in the center of Vietnam was came into place for 500 kilovolt and 200 kilovolt, and of the Trung Nam group. And then the second issue that normally considered obstacle, you can see in land and licensing matter. Still, there's a significant delay can happen to project if the clearance of the land, the compensation of land before clearance can take place. It cannot be handled effectively and speedy by the local authority. So that is a challenge usual. And framework of renewable energy development is it's getting there. And as I mentioned, there's a couple of new circular that detail the implementation, the guidance and the implementation is already in place. So it is less and less of an issue, but there are friction here and there in the implementation as well as enforcement of regulation, and that will take a bit more time. And number 4, as I mentioned, which is also a focus of my presentation today, is the PPA, the standard PPA in Vietnam. So if you are an IPP and in Vietnam, then you probably know that there are a requirement for you to use the standardized or the regulatory PPA to be issued by the MOIT under the instruction of the government. And since you are selling to the only buyer, which is EVN, there is not it's not a very big room for negotiation. But then recently, there are the authority in Vietnam, the government in Vietnam, they do realize the need of having the PPA discuss and negotiate and modify in line with the parties' situation as well as the lender's requirement, and therefore that is recognized that the party should have would have the freedom of negotiating and modify the standard PPA up to the level that is not changing the fundamental. How to define fundamental remains to be another subject, but so long as you don't change the fundamentals of the standard PPA, then it should be accepted. And currently, the direct PPA is still not applicable yet. It's not yet because the detailed regime guidance about the rooftop solars and private solar for CNI customers are still not yet been issued, and therefore people are still concerning about the timing and the content of the direct PPA when it comes into place. Feed-in tariff regime, I did mention that, and there's a deadline to be applied, and then there's a lot of proposal to have the deadline extended due to the COVID-19 as well as the other practical and operational difficulty for the local for the IPP, for the developer and lender also in Vietnam. So as a matter of recent development, there are offshore wind development project that is in the mostly took place in the center of Vietnam, Bình Định and Ninh Thuận and Bình Thuận. And the size of that is bigger and bigger, and seems to be quite significant achievement they're trying to do. But there are challenges exist. Things like technical issues such as marine spatial planning is not yet developed, and the offshore transmitting grid as well as the storage system is not yet in place. So with that being said, I would also go quickly through the overall grid issue slide about the feed-in tariff and so on and so forth, so that we can have enough time to focus on to the bankability or the lack thereof of the standard PPA in Vietnam, which is the number one issue for many of the developers as well as the lender in Vietnam. As you can see, it's there's a major funding challenge for a private developer here in Vietnam because government warranty is non-existent, and there's a limit of that the government already passed. So there's none. The climate bond is unknown and untested with on the capital market. Local bank at the same time are not very familiar with the non-recourse finance term, and long-term fund is limited. And also at the same time, domestic interest rate is high, and therefore there's less incentive for lending to renewable energy project. So in terms of the PPA, the reason why many international lenders are concerning and thinking of PPA standard. PPA in Vietnam is not bankable is because of the number of technical issues, being number one, legal risk, as you can see here. There's no clear reference to international arbitration, and I said there's a local dispute settlement mechanism, which is to be overseen by MOIT, the Ministry of Industry and Trade, who are looking after electricity matter and renewable energy matter. And there's in the template of the PPA, there's a missing of the take or pay provision, whereby if your capacity is cut off due to congestion or overload capacity of the grid, then there is little obligation from the buyer EVN to buy. And even if they are found to be in default of the PPA, of the buying commitment, then the limit of the penalty, which is low, and maximum being the last year production. So there are risks for private investor, as I mentioned, and the mechanism of dispute settlement is also of the significant concern for international developer and lender, because it put everybody under the local procedure of a local of a government authority, who is also at the same time is the biggest shareholder of the buyer in the end. And we're talking about essentially 90 days from beginning to the end of the process in the so-called technical or theory timeline. But in reality, it can last for longer. 120 days or 150 days should be considered normal. So 5 different steps, as you can see, from the legal point of view, there's approximately 90 days as a lead time to be taken. But then from practical point of view, there's always delay, practical operational delay or other matters. So as I mentioned, that is to be expected to be a longer process. From the time when you submit the complaint to the party, between the party, and then submit it to the MOIT division, do a DORE, as you can see here, until that DORE department can issue a decision. And even with that, there's no guarantee that you would be treated very transparently or very fairly, given the concern that there's a conflict of interest inherently exists, as I mentioned. So also the standard PPA dispute settlement, as you can see here, there's no distinction between political and natural force majeure term. So the seller had to be at the risk, bear the risk of political force majeure, which is something is under the state control, being the buyer's owner's control. So no termination payment obligation following the termination due to force majeure, and inadequate dispute resolution, as I mentioned before. No clear guidance, no clear pathway was set for international arbitration. Right. So with that being said, the PPA will consider not very practical, not very bankable internationally, and therefore many consider those are the most significant obstacle for the development of the project in Vietnam. Obviously, ASEAN developer like Supa Energy or many other Asian developer, as well as local developer, is still managed to develop new project, and the situation, the fact that you have the situation of congestion in the center of Vietnam, showing that problem, that technical problem with the PPA is not necessarily the deal breaker for many of the developers. Anyway, from the legal point of view, what could be a solution to deal with that, and what could be the practical way to handle that, instead of just complaining about the unbankability, and it is unlikely that the government going to change the regulation on PPA very significantly very soon. There are changes that took place, but it's going to take place gradually along with the necessity of privatization, as well as buying more of the electricity, for the need to buy more electricity from the international developer. So, but then that means that from the practical point of view, if you, it might be more practical for you to look at things from different angle and make use of the other tool, other means, measures that are already exist without you paying attention too much before. And here I'm talking about the the way to leverage the legal tool, the legal approach to and consider them as a new warranty for the PPA to be bankable in Vietnam, instead of just looking at the lacking of the government warranty, lacking of the flexible term to be negotiated between the lenders and the developer as well as the buyer, and risk of change in law, tax regime, or the risk of interest rate to worry about. So what happened is that I would also go through rather quickly through this change in the recent circular about PPA term. To get into the key point, what I'm trying to say is the investment protection treaty, which is something already exists since last 40 years, as a matter of fact. And why it is already exists, already there, not a lot of people knows about them. Okay, and here I'm talking about the ISDS mechanism. ISDS stands for Investor State Dispute Settlement. So majority of the lawyer, even lawyer, not businessman, today are not very familiar with ISDS, right? Although it is always there, and although it is almost always a part or a separate chapter of a trade agreement signed between governments of the world today, there's not a lot of attention was spent for it. Okay, so that is something. That is why I think that would be a whole lot more practical for you to look at it as an already existing tool and a very powerful one. I would say to be leveraged, to be used to be explained and to be used for the lender, for the developer, instead of trying to ask for or propose for immediate change of the terms and conditions of the PPA. So but before getting into that, I would spend a couple of minutes to briefly explain what exactly I'm talking about when I'm talking about ISDS. Okay, so as a tool for the PPA. So here we just as a matter of principle, the investment protection treaty or chapter in the trade agreement that the government sign with each other. Here, essentially, it protects all of them are having same content, which is aiming to protect investor when they bring their investment to invest in a foreign country. They would be protected from discrimination. So they're going to be treated fairly, and they're going to be treated, most favorably. As any other investor, as well as the local company. And number two, it aims to protect, again, uncompensated expropriation of property of foreign investor in a country. It also aims to protect the denial of justice if it happened foreign investor in a host country, and it protect the right to transfer capital or remittance, repatriation of capital of foreign investor back to their home country. So those are the key content, key protection that the country have under the investment protection treaty or investment protection agreement, as they call it. That goes along with for free trade agreement or trade agreement between the country, between a group of countries, so bilateral or multilateral treaty. And with that, I would jump quickly to a slide which show you a trend of development of ISDS case. Like I said, it exists for more than 20 years now, for almost 40 years now. Sorry. And at the beginning, at the first 20 years, almost no one knows about it. Okay, no one have any idea what is ISDS or ICSID are. And but in the last 10 years, things changed significantly, and you will see the big development of new cases of ISDS, as you see here, from 0 to 600. So nowadays, with some more than 3,000 investment agreements signed between the country, all of them include ISDS provision. And although it is practical, but it is should be considered as a rather expensive mechanism to settle, because you probably know that when people employ ISDS claim, they claiming for hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars. So it costs a little bit for the arbitration fee as well as legal fee that are involved. So 80% of these claims, by the way, coming from the developed country. So Western country mostly, USA, and Netherlands, Germany, France, etc., etc. And so basically, that is a mechanism that allow company to sue government, to sue foreign government in case they were treated unfairly, illegally, that lead to their loss of or the damage of their investment. So and the definition of investment are rather general and rather large. So no detail is necessary, but then almost anything that can any type of property can be considered investment under the ISDS mechanism. So even there are cases where the foreign investor has not conducted the investment in the country, but there's an action of that country that create damage. They still can, they are still allowed to claim it back. So and obviously it's come with plus and minus. It comes with some controversy. A country that developing country or country emerging country, sometimes it was considered unfairly as a way of unfair way of using a lot of money and for arbitrator who are also at the same time a commercial actor, a commercial lawyer whose interest might lie into the mechanism of having it settled and favor to their client, which is on the Western country. So on the other hand, it can be considered very positively as a way, as a mechanism to retain foreign investment in any particular country, because as a matter of fact, if you have the foreign investor coming into the country and invest significantly, hundreds of millions of dollars of their investment pour into the country, and if they are found, they were treated unfairly and unreasonably, it's more likely than not that they're going to leave the country and make some negative comments, which is something no country in the world, no investment promotion agency in the world would want to face. And therefore, this is a mechanism that allows country to retain their investment and keep the goodwill for the country as a destination for investment. So briefly, the ISDS procedure is a dispute settlement step that that can be taken within, I would say, 1.5 to 2 years.
Hello, Tuan.
Hello?
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. Sorry, Tuan. Would you please speed up? Actually, that we are a bit over time. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So,
Yeah.
how many minutes do I have? Or I have to.
Well, actually, it's overtime a lot. Sorry.
Oh, all right. Okay. Sorry, I got carried away. I guess. So basically, what I'm saying is the final slide here, as you can see, ISDS as a mechanism, not only as a dispute, but also as negotiation and mediation tool, which is very efficient and very powerful. The reason why we advocate for that, because currently we are the law firm that handle the most cases of that in Vietnam, and we are negotiating and we are mediating all of those cases pretty effectively for our clients. So far, there are 2 who have been settled favorably, and therefore we consider that is a very win-win kind of solution for both the country and for the investor, and should be popularized, should be employed more frequent than now. So, okay, I hope I didn't go too fast, and but anyway, I'm happy to answer any of the questions that you can have later. With that being said, the floor is handing back to you, Lynic. I hope and thank you for your generosity.
Yeah, no problem, Tuan. Thank you very much. I'm sure that it's the fundamental to understand the investment legal sectors for PPA and financing sectors to do investment in Vietnam. And we have also got inquiries these days from our participants to understand more about this. And I'm sure that if you have any question, you can feel free to find Tuan for more details. And we are happy to. Tuan, maybe you can type in your contacts and share your contacts in the chat box. Sure, and the people, yeah, sure. And if you have any questions and you want the PPT or in chat with Tuan, and you can feel free to send message to him. Thank you very much, Tuan. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, we're a bit over time, but we're last but not least. Let's welcome our final speaker here today, Mr. Supa Waisayarat from Supa Energy. Hello, Mr. Supa.
Hello. Okay. I will go really fast because most of the things I think we discussed already. So I will talk about the factor that affect the project. Most of the things Mr. Anh Tuan talking, and in summarize that, can you go on the slide? Supa is a Thai company. We in stock market from 2005, and we listed in stock market for around capital list for nearly $1 billion US, and we have about 600 megawatt in Thailand. Mostly are the solar project. The rest is we have waste energy or business. Also, we have 3 categorized of business right now: waste energy, solar energy, and water resources or water supply. We don't have wind yet in Thailand, but we have the offshore and windshore in Vietnam. That we have in new future could be we are considered like LNG and so on. It feasible, and it could be like work in Vietnam with the gas turbine. Okay, a part of the solar that's already in the 6 project in the pipeline. A 6 project already under operation, and we're working a big project for 550 megawatt. Expecting to finish within end of this year. So we talk about the wind that unfortunately I could not share your slide, but I will talk about what it affects to all project in overall. Okay, moment, just a moment. Okay. How can I share a slide? We can talk along of this. As we plan for the 2 offshore wind projects in Sóc Trăng and in Bạc Liêu. In Sóc Trăng, we have about 330 megawatt, and in Bạc Liêu we have 41 megawatt. Okay, we signed contract already with all EPC beginning of this year, and we expecting to starting over a project. Okay, so what we were impacted by the bring in over expert and labor. Now we also try very hard to bring them in the expert, and our team is expecting about 300 and 400 from China, from India, from Indonesia. Finally, we have to make up that we cannot bring many people in Vietnam. Then we have to hire many of the local subcontractors. However, the tool and the machine we still have to bring in from other countries like China and Indonesia. Another issue that impact us during the COVID is about the land compensation. We would like to contact to the authority, but with the COVID pandemic, they are not allowed to see in during of the pandemics. Also, like a big panic of everyone during March, April, and May, we could not do anything. But we still would like to keep on over the schedule time to finish the thing on time. However, it also impacts us a lot. Even I talking about authority visiting, permitting, and everything still like Antoine talking. It cannot be easily to discuss on of things. So this is the impact of the project in overall. If we can count from the day one, it impact a lot. EPC management side, master plan, everything side to do substation, transmission line cannot do. And until we are on October, we still obstruct in many things. Like we should start the project from beginning of this year, but we cannot. Okay, even we sign, we pay, we do a lot of things. I'm not sure that how many of the investor has some experience like this or not. We mobilize manpower. Try from February. We can have some. We mobilize the vessel to Vietnam, but they obstruct and cannot go in. They only in the round of before Sea of Vietnam, but cannot entry. But you know that the issue between Vietnam and China, also the government also not allow easily for the vessel from China to go to Vietnam. Then for the construction phase, we will not complain. We are talking about real situation. The delay on everything that's approval, construction, permit, offshore, onshore, sea right, import, foreigner, engineer. Okay, this is the real thing we talk, and even we expect to finish the over big project for 141 megawatt. We also afraid that maybe we could not finish this on time, and then we could do for the partial COD. That would bring to us to discuss about or negotiate with the Vietnamese government again or MYT. If we could not finish, how about the tariff rate and so on? How could we do better and we get better rate? Okay, that's the thing. The second thing, if we also have to do another one project onshore. Now we start with the approval process, and it's still not yet get IRC and PPA. But we also intention to invest for the more project, but we cannot talk to the bank or the management, or even the fundraising, how we get the money in, because without the approval from management, from the government, can't do anything. We don't know even what the new tariff. We have only 1 year to go, but we cannot start anything without the IRC. We cannot start transmission line and so on. Then, what could be answer over management, over stakeholder, how we could move in? My question already read to the government issue, to the government. How could we do if we want to put our money in Vietnam? Or other people or other investors also are interested to do the project in Vietnam. Please be aware of this. It's somehow Mr. Anh Tuan also talking. Many people also talking. It's not easy. So you need to. There's some guy in the seminar yesterday. They are talking about you need to make love with the PC people. You have to learn many of the people, many of authority in Vietnam, and hope that they can help you someday. not just only to look and sitting and looking and cannot help. That is the big issue. I would keep wanting to all people that be aware. So I just have some issue to talk to. In the positive thing, we also have like the group of the kids that also we can nominate them. Some of the scholarship, some of food, some of money. In during COVID, we cannot do anything. We just to visit the people and give them something what they should really have to have in their pocket and to survive in this hard time. Okay. Then what we need from the government or from the village person is to remain FIT, to extend the FIT and extend the time for the investor who are really want to finish the project, have to want to invest the project in Vietnam. Many of the difficulty from permitting, from license, from bring in the equipment and even do for the land compensation, bring in manpower. I think this is a big issue. Okay, time up. It means that we need a time to extend. But if without the positive signal or the clear direction, it's very hard to do it. Okay, I think I go very fast and to make the time completion and for everyone to share their question and answer. Thank you very much. All right. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Supa, for your presentation. Yeah, sure. And let's move into, I think, thank you very much for your presentation. And now we have the Q&A sessions. Yeah.
Okay, please.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the first we have collected the questions from the registrants during the registration. Yeah. The first question is, could you share information on the curtailment risk in Vietnam? And maybe Tuan or Mr. Supa, you can share your comments on this.
Actually, we also have like a sick plant in the solar sick plant in Vietnam, and some of them also have a problem with the unavoidable. Of course, it impact in the in the figure of the financial figure that we have to show to the bank. It's not easy to explain when we could finish those of things. Somehow the EVN also inform us, and this is the information you have to get and you have to release on this issue. But we still not sure that even after the wind project finished, like in Tuan province, it will be any impact or not. We listen many times that EVN plan and try to solve the problem by the transmission line. It sees the list of the investment, also have to see the problem from the power curtailment. Okay, that's what the thing I would say. Even we believe that the EVN will solve the problem, but we could not 100% trust that the thing will be come on time and 100% finished. Thank you.
Right. And Tuan, do you have any comments on the curtailment risk sectors?
Can you repeat again? You repeat the question again.
No, I mean I'm calling Tuan Phung. Tuan, are you still there?
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Let me turn on. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have any comments on the curtailment risk sectors?
From the operational point of view, I think Supa is on a better position for me to comment on that. And
okay.
I'm just wondering if what is your experience? Let's say comparing of 2019 and 2020, do you see any significant change and improvement, Supa?
It's better, but it's not 100%. I told you. Even we got commitment that would be released after June of 2020. It's better. I accept it better, but not 100%, and could not confirm how much it will be better because someday because of the rainy season, the power dropped down, so we could not expect it. However, to run at the maximum of the plant capacity, we could not see it much. I mean, we compare with the PVCs, we should have like nearly 95%, but I think the close we can do it only about 90 something. So I think the missing is, I cannot answer is now until the rainy season pass and I can see the real effect from the grid line or from the transmission line from EVN that could see in the next month or next couple of months. Okay.
Okay. I don't think I have anything more to add, Lynic.
Okay, great. So let's move into the next one. Is open tender or direct negotiation is preferred model for government to grant license or permit to potential operators. Mr. Supa, I think this is for you.
I think it's interesting, but you know that it depends on who get it. If like we get it, we will be happy. But if we not get it, we will unhappy. So I think is somehow we affect in benefit only of some big company. I'm thinking somehow maybe Vietnamese company. I'm not sure about this. I cannot can this thing is good or bad.
I see. All right. And next one is for the power purchase agreement for wind energy under FIT. What is barrier faced in implementing in wind? I think Tuan, you have. Do you have any further comments on this? Because I have saw some comments in your presentation already.
Right. Well, it's there's a long list of things, and but if you want to talk about that particular matter, then we have the well, just recently there is let's say the wish list for change coming from the lenders and the developer. Okay, and they want to have the commitment to purchase for the government to purchase all of the electricity, and they want to have a international practice, although the definition of international practice was never clearly defined, to be applied, and the PPA should be modified and negotiated on a project by project basis. Also, they want to have the freedom to amend and supplement the PPA template in line with the requirement from the lender. All right. So not all of them was adopted, but not all of them was accepted. However, there's a extended room for negotiation whereby the party can negotiate to clarify the responsibility of party in the PPA, and the detail must be but then the detail of that must be inconsistent with the template as a whole, and in line with the circular. So recently the interest rate was previously was fixed. Now it's adjustable in line with the rate set by the or pronounced by the SBV, the State Bank of Vietnam. So you have more room for negotiation and you have more flexibility, but not quite there yet, and it's getting there gradually, as I mentioned before.
All right, thank you, Tuan. And I think next one is from the developer sectors. What would be the key challenges to develop wind energy in Vietnam, Mr. Supa? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
You repeat the question again. You ask the same question, Mr. Tuan, or not? The question again. Sorry.
The question is the key challenges to develop wind energy in Vietnam. I think, yeah, as a developer, I think you have something to share with us.
Yes, the most for us is very clear that the new FIT, now there are 2 or 3 factors that impact. I would talk in general. That's one of Lynic, right? Talking about the supply chain or for for the supplier for the wind. As you know, that's now in Vietnam, in China, in Taiwan, for the wind offshore or onshore, whatever, have to finish, let's say, end of next year. That is the shortage of the wind turbine in the market. Eventually, we can bring from Europe, but I don't think that it could fulfill the demand in the market. That's that one thing, okay? And this is impact also with the, the new tariff that if we don't know exactly what the feed-in tariff could be, will the government will extend or not for after October 2021? You cannot invest a new project in the pipeline. Some people do it. Some investors, I'm listening that they also would like to do it, but you know how you can to the bank or the financial company, how you know that exactly about your return of your investment, that we don't have clue. Even people say that in the many of seminar could be the same rate, or maybe will be discounted, maybe the same like auctioning from the solar, but we don't know exactly. So if you ask me the challenge for the new project, after that, I think we cannot answer it clearly. Even my top management asked me, do you know that's when they will list for the in tariff to, and then we will come back to the financial model to calculate if it's worth for investment. As we as investor, we will do it. Okay, we challenge it. We challenge ourselves that we finish a project this year and next year, and after the new project comes with the new price of the turbine, that we do believe per megawatt it will be going lower. If like the shortage of the demand, shortage of supply will be like end of next year. After that, if Vietnam still open for the new wind project, we do believe that it will be challenging and it will be interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Talking about the supply chain sectors, and here's another question: is how about the local content in the wind farm development in Vietnam? Is there any special requirements?
I think it's okay because my background is engineering, electrical engineering. We also do modify that we did in like before I worked in Supa, I worked in another company in Thailand. Maybe you know the name like Energy is Absolute. That we also do the big solar wind farm in Thailand. We also modify in many of the technical from 22 kV to 35 kV. That can save the cost of the cable and of the insulator. Sorry, about the cost of the equipment. Because of the more kV, we can carry more the current. That can solve the cost saving, and we can use. But we cannot use some kind of equipment in Vietnam because even say that your government, your supplier in Vietnam local can do it, but I don't see much of they have more experience or the. How to say that? I think that they are not ready to supply some kind of the 35 kV equipment in Vietnam. Then we have to import cable equipment, and in high voltage, then forget about this because we have to import from outside Vietnam anyway. Only some of the control cable, some of the lower voltage cable, okay, we can start it in Vietnam and the price is competitive.
I see. Thank you very much, Mr. Supa. And here is our final question here today for today's webinar. Do you have any ideas about FIT and beyond? Tuan, do you have?
Very, very briefly, everything seems to be up in the air at this point in time. There are more than one proposal from the MOIT as well as from the Business Association, Eurocharm, and German Association, and so on and so forth. So, but it is unclear. There is no definitive confirmation on that. So for now, we can still we need to go with the current one. Yeah, under circular 18 and 13. So nothing yet confirmed.
I see.
And the market is moving, as a matter of fact. So
Yeah, I understand also that the global pandemic will cause some delay on the project execution for projects in Vietnam. And how do you see that the impact to Supa Energy, Mr. Supa? And how do you think about the challenges to meet 2021, the November 1st, the COD?
Okay, I will answer. This is a lesson learned what we did with the solar farm project in Vietnam. Again, with in Tariff 1, we also learned that for the cost of investment and so on, is totally different from the last year to this year. You know, like I give some example. The cost of development is cheaper. The cost of the equipment is cheaper. I'm talking about the solar. Regarding the supply of the solar panel in before this time is the supply is high, is still supply in the market, and then when we make the price, we have the negotiation. Then we can do with the sale of the IRR from the last year and this year. Even the price is dropped down, but we can do it. And then it challenge us again. I tell you, because it's the manufacturer of the supply of the wind turbine, supply of equipment, supply and everything must be dropped or reduced. If they remain the same price or increase, I think with the same tariff, even hard to do. And then if the tariff is dropped down, I don't think that is like Mr. Anh Tuan mentioned. That I think it could not be the pretty picture to see, you know, because no one invests on you get the better return. It's like a get worth return. I don't think that's the new investor will come.
Thank you, Mr. Supa. I think that's all for our Q&A session today. And next page, please. And we are very glad to inform that our next webinars on Vietnam wind energy sectors is on the 19th November, and we are calling for papers now. And if you are have any good topics and can share it with us, we are very welcome you to find me. And my contacts is there, and you can feel free to send me emails.
Okay, we will do it. Thank you.
Thank you, and yeah, thank you very much. And also we are. Our partner, Maps and Globe, is also launching the wind map for Vietnam, and it's a good maps that's for illustrating all the ongoing and potential projects in Vietnam sectors. And if you are interested in advertising, you can feel free to send email to wind@mapsandglobe.com.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for attending today's webinar, and I will see you soon, guys, again.
Right. Okay. Let's keep in touch.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Take care.
Thank you.